Okay, and roll camera.
Lee, when you're watching them all set up here, do you really want to jump in and go, no, move that camera over here,
No,
the light, you know?
No. I'm mercifully outside of all that.
Lee Tamahori, at home in Herne Bay, Tāmaki Makaurau, the veteran trailblazing film director needs little introduction. His record speaks for itself. From local to international, Mahana to Mulholland Falls. But the real breakthrough was with this, Die Another Day.
Bond. James Bond.
When you were young,
Yeah.
what film did you see and you thought, man, that just blew me away?
A film called The Guns of Navarone.
Carl Foreman's The Guns of Navarone.
It's a great boys' own annual, exciting adventure movie about 5 guys that go to disable some Nazi guns overlooking the Bosphorus Straits. It's all a fiction, of course, but it was really, really exciting. It had great actors in it. It was the first time I saw a man on fire. Someone threw a grenade into a German E-boat, and one of the stunt guys came out all on fire and fell in the water.
And you thought, gee, I really like that. I'd like to do that myself.
This is amazing. Then I started watching Westerns.
Oh, I have feelings.
And I fell in love with the American Western, and I still am in love with the American Western.
Lee grew up in suburban Wellington with his Pākehā mum and Maori dad.
We had to bring ourselves up as kids, and even though you knew it was wrong to steal and to behave badly, you were taught these things by your parents, but you weren't taught everything by your parents. And things like sexuality and things, you're a growing teenager, hormones are running wild, you want to have sex with that girl, you don't know how to do it and all that stuff. You couldn't talk to your parents about that stuff. But I found that going to the movies, I found out I've learned more about moral codes and ethics and how to deal with stuff like hormonal ragings from films I'd watch. In those days, you couldn't fly anywhere, it was too expensive. But through film, you could see how another culture lived. And that's what I've been doing now, making films here, is reflecting our culture for other people to see.
Lee started out telling our stories in TV ads, and he was good at directing them too. This was his biggest, the Join Together ad for the 1990 Commonwealth Games in Auckland.
Hey, when I was running dispatches, I used to watch where I was going. That's the only reason I'm still here.
The actors.
Bit of a runner, were you, digger?
That's Bruno Lawrence.
Your day.
And Aussie star Tony Barry.
Fastest man in Bendigo.
Along with a host of others, and they all did it for free.
I got a couple of Bob says you're not the fastest man in Belgium.
A visual epic set in the mud and blood of World War I. No budget, no rules, just come up with a story of togetherness, and he did.
So I created a complete story out of thin air, which didn't have a 60 or 30-second time limit on it.
Yeah.
It could be as long as I liked. So it gave me creative freedom so I had to call in a lot of favours, camera, lights, sound, especially the art department. I said, look, I'm not earning any money off this, so no one else is. And everyone agreed to do it for nothing. Well, we had a ball doing it. It was one of the most expensive looking
That's beautiful.
commercials.
It was really cool. It was really cool way. Does your upbringing and culture drive your craft and the choice of movies you make?
Yep, it does. I've found that Maori stories fascinate me more than Pākehā stories.
In Once Were Warriors, it was domestic violence. In Mahana, it was something much closer to Lee's personal experience.
This country is great because of hard-working men. Don't let us forget who our friends are, nor who are our enemies.
That was really a postcard to my parents. My father's from Ngāti Porou, and the story is set on the East Coast, and it's the time, deals with the time Maori were their last gasp on the land before they moved to the cities.
We're thousands of miles from civilization, surrounded by savages of the most barbaric kind.
His latest movie, The Convert, explores the battle for control, Māori against Māori, and first contact with colonial Pākehā. Released last year, it's set in 1830 Aotearoa with a $50 million price tag.
What do you want?
I ask that you spare the lives of these people.
Choose.
Any future stories I do are going to be about, whether it's past or present, are always going to have a Māori component to them.
Coming up, Warriors, the making and the breaking. That's next. No mai ki te ao with Moana. We're back in 25, looking at the world around us through a Maori lens, connecting the dots across Aotearoa and beyond. The politics, the people, the stuff that affects our whānau. We're here for you. Challenging and celebrating as well, every Monday night on Whakaata Māori.
So I was one of the ones who roasted it, and I guess predictable that Pākehā would go, oh, look at there, that's a documentary. It's a documentary. And when I travelled overseas as a musician, I'd get interviewed by people journalists who'd go, well, we watched Once Were Warriors, and it's just so sad how your people have become. How did you handle being criticised by Māori?
Well, strangely enough, the criticism only came from a largely more academic crew. Most Māori who went to see the film didn't criticise it.
Oh, the film itself, the technicals, everything about it was fantastic.
Yeah.
For me, it was about the timing, but also Alan Duff was extremely unhelpful in the environment that we were in. He was, so I'd have some doozies with him.
Yeah. Well, you got to understand that, as I said earlier, it's a love story that's dysfunctional.
Tell Jakey you love him.
That's the trouble, Jake. I do.
Well, I've tried.
And Alan's book is all about Jake the Muss. I swung the story around the other way, so that it was all about Bess and Grace and the kids, so that Jake took a secondary part in the proceedings, but he was always going to drive a truck through the story.
I got a temper on me, but who hasn't?
Jake, famously played by Temuera Morrison, was a deeply unsettling force of nature.
You should learn to pay your respects. In case you want to know, it's Jake. Jake the Muss.
Temuera was not a classically trained actor. He's an actor who came along playing versions of himself and made a good living out of it, but had never tested himself in playing such a character against his own personality. I mean, he had to say things in that film about fucking Maori and this and that and everything, which is the antithesis of what he believes. He's not that guy.
Yeah.
But you have to be trained to do that, usually, as an actor, to play multiple roles or versions of yourself.
Tim was also a star on Shortland Street, where the cast noticed that sometimes he took Jake to work with him.
You're not in Guatemala now, Dr. Ropata.
So the reason he came stomping around Shortland Street in his boots and everything was he was in the character 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
He drove his cousins crazy.
It's always your answer, eh, Jake? Violence.
Warriors made international stars of Tem, Rena Owen and Cliff Curtis.
Hey, come on. Give your Uncle Bully a kiss goodnight.
I don't want to.
What?
How I handled the criticism, I just had to handle it, you know. So, I felt that we'd made a film that was honest in its fictional aspects. And
Do you look at the film differently now, 30 years on?
no, I don't. I've watched it recently and it still holds up.
Cook the men some eggs.
You want eggs? I'll have the bloody lot of them!
I thought to myself, and Tim and I and Reno would talk about it, are we undoing 30 years of advancement for Maori by showing this environment? But the environment was real, and it's still real. And it's not that I'm making a documentary about Maori in a grip of poverty and drugs and alcohol and homelessness. It's a reflection of us as a society, and another one of the reasons I made it, what convinced me to make it, because it took me some convincing to do this, was that we were not making films about our urban environment at all.
It was very rural back then, eh?
Yeah,
the
it
films.
it was all about man
Ngāti,
alone, man goes
yeah.
in the bush, smash palace, etc., etc.
Horses.
Horses and beautiful countryside. And I said, we've got to start making hard-edged, social realist films in New Zealand.
Beth Hickey? What now?
Been keeping bad company.
Was that before or after you picked him up?
Once for Warriors fitted that my need to reflect the urban society of New Zealand. I grew up in a pub environment, drinking. There were brawls all the time. My father was a social worker for Maori welfare, as it was called then. And his job was putting out fires in Porirua and dealing with the effects of the New Zealand Brewery's 24-hour fermentation process with Cannons Creek Tavern and the Takapuna, on Thunderbird Inn in Takapuna. Concrete barns where young men would go drinking and have brawls and take it home to their families. And I thought, well, you know, this is a legitimate film to make. Sorry, tourist industry, I probably set you back some 30 years, but that shouldn't stop these films from being made.
It got a bit weaponised though, eh? The film got weaponised.
Yeah, it did, yeah. I agree. And one of the things that I worried about the most was I'd go and sit in audiences to hear what the crowd was like. And there were a lot of gang members would come and see it too. And my worry was that the violence, they thought that Jake was their hero.
Jake became a hero.
But the largest audience for the film in New Zealand and in Australia was women. And they all saw in it, women saw in it their own lives being reflected.
After the break, keeping it real and coming full circle. No mai ki te ao with Moana. We're back in 25, looking at the world around us through a Maori lens, connecting the dots across Aotearoa and beyond. The politics, the people, the stuff that affects our whānau. We're here for you. Challenging and celebrating as well, every Monday night on Whakaata Māori.
What was the hardest scene that you've shot in a movie?
Oh, there's so many. Yeah, Bond movies are different. They're high-octane action pictures with characters thrown in willy-nilly here and there, and it's a formulaic thing. The most difficult scenes you have to shoot are technical.
Yeah.
Things blowing up and things coming at you. And The more difficult stuff to do is when the actors have to create an emotional scene of some severity. For example, when Beth is beaten up by Jake, bounces off a wall and crashes down. And I said to them both, I mean, Rena was up for it, but Tim was very worried he was going to hurt Rena because we were going to, the way the fist had to come, he had to stop his fist an inch away from her face. These are highly technical things, but they can be extraordinarily dangerous. She could have been hit for real.
Yeah.
She never was, but she sold the fact that she was hit.
Coward!
And it was very difficult for me to film it because I knew we were making up, it's make-believe, it's a fiction, but we were dealing with real, as real as you could get situation. I'd never shot sequences like that before, and the more realistic you make them, the more violent it becomes for the viewer. But the more realistic it is the more accurate it is, and the actors sell that. So to this day, I have people who are boxers and wrestlers and fighters come up to me and say, you know, that barroom fight when he beats up that guy is the most authentic thing I've ever seen.
So how hard is it to translate, because the book, I loved the book. Yeah. How hard is it to translate a book into a screenplay into moving picture?
But I felt that it needed a female perspective because I wanted to swing the whole story. The book is not about Beth and Grace, and it's about Jake Hickey.
Yeah.
And I thought no one will come and see this if it's just about a violent brute. It has to be seen from if you see it from the woman's perspective, the female perspective. This film has a chance of surviving because your heart will go out to the women and the children, not to Jake.
When you look at the New Zealand film industry now, since when you first came into it, what's the biggest change, do you think?
Well, the biggest change is generational. When we started, there was no protective union structure. The crews were very small. It was all a family affair. We were like a tight little family. We all knew each other. We'd all go on to, there was only 2 films being made a year, so I'd be on all of them.
What makes a film Maori?
It's a very slippery slope when you say what's a Maori film. I don't think they're, if it's about something, like a lot of my peer group and friends that I've got are filmmakers, some of them Maori. They make films about Maori, but I'm not sure even if they would call it a Maori film.
So we have someone like Taika Waititi now who's done films like What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah.
It's been like this the whole time, Deacon, on dishes, and it still hasn't moved in 5 years.
You're a cool guy, but you're not pulling your weight in the flat.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that I'm cool. No, that's not the point, though. You're missing
I know.
the point.
Not the flat meeting.
That's not a Maori film.
What's that?
That's not a Maori film.
What
We Do in the Shadows?
Well, I wouldn't say it was a Maori film, eh?
No.
Yeah. So,
but Two Cars, One Night is.
Yes.
And so is Boy.
So that's a good film, wasn't it?
Yeah,
2 Cars, One
It's
Night.
fantastic, yeah.
Wow. And Boy.
Boy, yeah.
Hey, Chardonnay! Wanna see some Michael Jackson dance moves?
Is there pressure? Are you only as good as your last film?
That's true in America. Yeah, America is a place of studio films which has now stopped, and it's become a land of television production. And the films are either giant blockbusters, like Marvel Comics, or they're independent films. The great dramatic movie, like
The Godfather.
The Godfather, doesn't get made anymore for film. People, because audiences are dwindling, everyone's watching it on streamers, and that's where the present, I won't say the future, lies in that. But still, if you do a hit TV series or if a hit film still breaks out somehow, then you'll get headhunted and you'll be asked to do lots of stuff.
Mm.
If you made something like 2 or 3 failures in a row, I mean financial failures, not critical failures, then the phone doesn't ring. The difference here in New Zealand is if you're a good film director and competent and good at your job and you've made films before, that doesn't matter. Success in New Zealand is not predicated upon box office.
Mm.
That's only part of it.
Lee's storied career, though, hasn't been without controversy, on screen and off. In the early 2000s, he was arrested in Los Angeles for allegedly offering sexual services to an undercover cop. After a plea deal, charges were dropped and Lee was ordered to do clean-up duties in Hollywood.
You got arrested in 2006. Did that impact on your professional career? Was there any kickback in the States then?
Oh, yeah, there was a little... it didn't end my career.
Yeah.
It impacted it a little, but the impact was more on me. And I chose to move to Europe.
Oh, okay.
To shoot films there because I wanted to work in a European environment.
Because of that?
Not because of it, but no, there were still film offers coming in because people, you've got to remember, people don't, if it's not a violent crime or you haven't robbed a bank or something, people really don't give it.
Mm. Do you think that it was overly reported back here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but I expected that. You can't not in the modern world.
So no big dramas over there in terms of...
No, nobody gave a shit over there.
Yeah.
It was only here that they thought.
Yeah.
It's early internet savagery.
Yeah.
But, you know, make your bed and you lie in it.
Mm. You reckon you've still got a bit of gas left in the tank?
Oh, yeah. I've still got some. I've got Parkinson's now.
How does that impact you?
Well, it doesn't. It's only physically, shaped like this, but mentally I've still got my acuity and all my marbles in my head.
I'm just going to finish off with a little message, okay? It's from Cliff Curtis.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Tell Lee he is loved and I have a deep well of gratitude for the path he created for so many of us to see the world and be a part of the world as storytellers, entertainers, practitioners of every discipline in our industry, and of course, as last but not least, as Maori."
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Cliff.
That's nice, eh?
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah. Hey, thank you very much for that. Sorry that I rambled on a bit, but you're a director, you know it's all in the edit, so...
Yeah.
Is that it?
Well, I hope you make something out of it.
Definitely, yeah. That's fantastic.